All right, we are definitely very much live. So let's go ahead and set some stuff up. Let's see, I want to share my screen. We're just gonna share my whole screen, which is dangerous. But it's just how we gotta do things. Oh, it doesn't like this. Okay, that's fine. We will not do that. We'll do Windows. Um, once I get the windows pulled up, because it's not doing it. Ah, we love that. I want to go here. Remove this. And I'm gonna pop this one up on screen. There we go. And we want to add to stage. Sick. Alrighty. Hello, hello. I need to zoom in a bunch because y'all will not be able to see this. Hang on. My laptop is slow. It's fine. It's fine. Come on. Let me zoom in. Can I not? Let me zoom in. Is this so wrong? No zoom. No zoom for Cecilia. That's fine. This is why we use this stuff. Alrighty. How's everybody's holidays actually? It is the holidays for everybody, I hope. Or if not, it was, and if not, it will be. I think I've covered everything at that point. So yeah, what was your favorite part so far while I get us set up? Let's see, we're gonna need this. Leave that there. And we're gonna copy that because we're gonna want to show everybody that. Nobody needs to hear me twice on Twitch. I already did that. Don't forget to check in for the event. And I'm also going to put it on the screen. Create banner. Event. Add banner. Show banner. That is massive. We can do better than that. We can do better than that. What happened? Oh, that wasn't it. Nope. Nope. We're just having a grand old time with branding. It's fine. Oh, there's nowhere I can shrink it. What? Boo. Alright, well, let's go make it spinny spin. So that way, maybe it'll edit. Let me scroll it. Show. There we go. Much better. Much less obtrusive. Alright. So, I said, if you don't know what you're doing, if you are stuck on a project, or if you haven't started, we're going to be doing things today. And the answer to that is we are retrofitting today. And you can see my many, many tabs because I am a hacker who opens way too many tabs. Also, I'm freezing. And we're gonna see how this goes. I did not remember to bring in a blanket. But I am too cheap to turn the heat on in the house, so we gotta make choices. All right. So if you got a chance to attend the Kintone workshop earlier this week, actually, a couple days ago, you probably went through like how to set up a Kintone database and like what you can do with it, and it gives you the sample project of where you're picking countries, states, etc., which is super awesome and helpful because as a hacker, you love things that are pre-built, ready for you to use, and you want to retrofit it to what you're going to be using. And so now, knowing that you have about 3 to 4 days left, we are great with timing. So I already have this project up and running and working. I got it working like in 5 minutes because their tutorials were amazing. Lots of resources online, which is super helpful. And so we're going to go through and see if we can't retrofit it for our possible needs. We'll talk through what that means, how we can expand even further. And this workshop should take about an hour and a half, 2 hours, depending on audience engagement and any questions that come up. My hope is that we'll cap at 2 hours. We really won't go over that because I would like to go eat dinner. I also need to feed my cat in about a half hour, so we will take breaks. But yeah, Okay, so if you were also in my Global Hack Week stream earlier this month, you will know that I had some technical issues, which is that my PC died. It was not my GPU, all hail the old reliable 1080 Ti, but unfortunately some other stuff in my PC is not working. So we are on my laptop, which means I am living on that one monitor life. Yay for KVMs, because at least I can have a nice camera and a good mic setup. So if there's any issues that come up, like you can't see something because I've forgotten to share it properly, if I'm talking about something and you're like, where is this thing on screen? Please, please, please post in the comments, like keep me updated on things. I do check the comments, although because I'm not on that window, I won't always check it. But if you want me to know what's wrong, you have to tell me. I won't always catch it. Learn that the hard way. All right. So as I said, this project was already pretty much good to go. Thanks to the Kintone workshop, where we can pick all sorts of different things, pick options. I wonder if this breaks actually. Let's submit it. Hey, so it gave us a little loading. I've also zoomed in a bunch so that way people can like read it. This is a very bare bones project, with the intent being that as a hacker, you will spruce up the front end, change the text, potentially change the form and what you're doing with it, but still have a very functioning MVP or minimum viable product, which is very like recommended generally by people who are mentoring, who are good at project management, scoping, that kind of stuff, which is why we're doing this today. Let me make sure no one said anything. All right. No comments is a good thing, right? It means nothing's wrong, right? Who knows? I might put up background music so that we're not just sitting here with the lovely me and my only voice. For once, I'm not sick, which is also nice. But I also made a checklist as well to keep us on track. Again, let me know if things are too small or I'm not showing something. I'm pretty sure I'm showing. Yes, I'm showing it. Okay. Like I'm paranoid now. I messed up. And like I said, we'll be taking breaks. I need to jump out and feed my cat really quick, but I'll give us some stuff to do in the meantime. All right. So as far as what we're doing, like I said, when you are a new hacker, old hacker, experienced hacker, don't know what's going on hacker, you name it, what kind of hacker, or even if you feel like you're not a hacker and you're just like, why am I here? The goal of a hackathon is to hack things together, not hack into things, but hack things together, right? And so, with that in mind, very common ideas that people will often start out with when they're just like, well, like some things that I see that I don't like or that I want to do better, or things that I need to represent myself as a developer online or a photographer, artist, you name it. There's lots of ways you can do that. And so, with that in mind, I thought, what are the three basic projects that a hacker could come up with? And the answer is a to do list, a portfolio or cataloging site, such as showing your photography, your art projects, your crafts, your development projects, your hackathon projects, your anything projects. Wow, I have a lot of projects actually. Those are all examples that I have. Anyway, so lots of things, or even a blog, which includes posts and comments. And you can make it a very simple forum, all sorts of things. So these are some common things that represent a couple different types of interactions. A to-do list allows you to add and remove objects, you as a single user. You can you might use like Keep on your phone or whatever the Apple version is. There's so many different to-do lists out there because it is such a common project. So we also then need to figure out, well, how are we going to revamp it into something that is something winnable or something learnable? Same thing with portfolio. It could be your personal website. It could be like maybe it's your friend's website. Like this is something that's a marketable idea. You could go off to your friend, your mom, your like sibling or cousin, or even family friend, and be like, "Hey, I know you have this business. You don't have an online presence. You should totally have like something marketable, which could be a portfolio." And then, of course, a blog where you might either post your own personal posts, such as like, as a new developer or as a full stack developer who's learning, like you can make a blog post every week and then allow for anonymous commentary, or people who find your website or your portfolio might want to interact with it. So a lot of these are bare bones ideas, but you can again revamp it into something unique and novel to you, whether it's your personalized based on your experience or the needs of those around you. Or it could just be a giant meme. You can also go the meme route. There are definitely joke things like your to-do list could be like randomizing meme pictures instead. your choice, your future. I totally encourage you to be creative in that regard. But using these predictive projects, I'm like, yeah, we can definitely, you can jump off and expand from there, which was the goal of this workshop. So what would that look like? And the reason I have simple schemas here is because I've actually gone through and written the database part for you, so you can just focus on the front end. Being again that you should be able to retrofit as you need, adjust, drop items, add items, do whatever you want. Again, with the same idea that you would learn different ways to interact with a database, with the way that Kintone does things, etc., etc. No new comments. Cool. All right. So with that in mind, we have a to-do list where basic items, so basic to-dos that would come up in a Brian has been PhDing for 3 weeks straight, and English has not been very good. I'm so sorry. I lost my train of thought. Right. I was explaining the database. I tend to do that every stream. So if you've been with me before, you're like, oh, I already know what a table is, or at least through context clues. I've never actually explicitly explained it. There are different ways to model databases, and databases can be actually the crux of your project. From using SQLite, which is something that I often used in my past workshop projects because they're so light, so quick to spin up. But if you're not experienced with it, it can take a really long time. Then you could use the more heavy hitters like Postgres or Microsoft SQL, or you could go where it's non-structured and use Mongo. And there's plenty of different resources. But if you just want like a drag and drop, Kintone is now the one that we're going to use. I actually had a lot of fun using it, being that I do use a lot of different databases all the time. I like experimenting with them. I was like, oh, this is like a good spin up. This is great for hackathon projects. And so for example, like I said, we're going to do a to-do list where we will have a table, although it's not quite referred to that in Kintone, or at least it's not explicitly mentioned from what I understand. I didn't really dig too deeply into that because I really tried to keep this simple. I really wanted this to be beginner friendly. I really wanted to make sure that like people could just take, go, run, and like retrofit as they need once we go over what we're doing. So with that in mind, we have the items table, which is italicized here. And every table that I have created for these sub-project ideas are italicized, where we will always have some kind of ID, some reference point that will be a unique identifier for our item. In this case, our to-do. The to-do will have a name that we'll put in. It might be a do the dishes, or it might just be dishes. But it won't be a drop-down like we have in the React app, which has like pick a country. Because I can't reasonably code up every possible chore, to-do, or thing that someone might come up with. I really want to give them that text field compatibility. And so I know that I'll have a unique name, or maybe not, but that's where the ID comes in. We're not using that as our unique entrance. Maybe I want to give the task a priority, like, oh, if it's a priority 1 or priority 3, depending on how you want to go about things. Maybe it's that you want priority 1 to be like, things must get done today. And priority 3 is like, it would be really, really nice to get to it, but if we don't, like, it's okay. Then we have a Boolean field, which is indicated by this question mark, by just saying, is it completed? With a to-do list, you want to be able to check things off. It's really satisfying when you get to, and you can come up with animations for that. Like if you check it off, you get like a little gold star. You could remove the item. You could, throw it in the trash. There's all sorts of creative things you can do to build off of such a simple backend, a simple database. What is your bare minimum functionality, right? Now, if you really wanted to get into complexities, we might consider that maybe there are sub-items. Maybe there's a group name that they're part of. So maybe it's like house chores versus like work stuff, or, PhD work in my case, schoolwork. Okay, we're not frozen anymore. I was saying schoolwork. So there's lots of different ways we might create like a label or colors. And this is something that you can definitely do on your own, or like we might get to it in the workshop depending on people's interests. But there's a lot of options to take with regards to a group name. We might change that field itself. Kintone makes it super easy. Love that. And then we, of course, have an auto-generated date created. Maybe we one day want to sort our items by date created in case we're like, all right, I'm going to bring dump all of my items and then gradually go through them. But it's, maybe 2 weeks later, like, so what did I put in 2 weeks ago that like I still haven't done yet? I want to check those off because those are now the priority, even if they're not marked priority 1, 2, 3, right? So there's some thinking that I had done with regards to these this table. Then we have the collection of items or things to display, such as portfolios. Great for photos, Great for, like I said, projects. This is fantastic if you don't have your own developer portfolio. Highly recommend considering this as a possible first project for you. If you're already experienced, you probably already know that you can just dump things in a table and go. All of these examples are based on the idea that you are creating data. You can find data on the internet. There are APIs for that, but we're using Kintone as a way to store that data for now. So once again, unique ID, we have a name regarding our item. So it could be a photo, it could be a project name, it could be a title, it could be a number of things like a photo name. And then maybe we want to create a description for it, which in the case of a project, you probably want to create a description for it. And then we have a date created. The reason we're not doing an auto-generated item here is specifically because maybe when you're adding something to your portfolio, you forgot about it. Or you're like, oh, I had this photo from like 2 years ago. I don't know if I should add it, but I think I'm going to add it. And so you don't want to say like you took this photo when you added it. You want to say you took the photo 2 years ago. So this is where we want to allow users to put in their date created. And then finally, we have our blog. This is where it just turns the dial of complexity up just a tad. We will need to do some looking into with regards to Kintone, or we'll at least do one of them and say, hey, do the replies on your own. I challenge you. We'll see how timing goes. But the idea is that you have posts in a blog or a forum or some way of just spreading your thoughts with the world, even if you don't want to do it through Twitter, X, whatever its name is these days. So again, we have the name of a table called posts. You have a unique ID. The reason I'm having UUID here is that this is actually a very commonly used ID, like schematic of sorts. Basically, it's just like a very long ID that's randomized in terms of numbers and I think letters. I could be wrong on that one. But it makes it so that you really don't run into like non-uniqueness. A post will have an author. It may have a title. It may have a body. It will have an auto-generated date created field. And finally, you might have replies. And in a normal database, replies would usually look like some form of link to another table called replies, which I've done here. I'm not going to go over this in the interest of really getting started and getting through the like formation of these three databases in Kintone. I really want to get through those so that way like y'all can just copy that, like follow the tutorial kind of thing, and then go like head straight into retrofitting, especially if we don't get to it. I'll talk more about like how to do it than actually doing it, depending again on timing. But it would be pretty valuable for you because it's at least just like teaching you a way of thinking is my hope. So your bonus challenge, if you decide to do a blog, consider how to do the replies table. My computer keeps freezing. Has that been trying for anyone? No one has said anything, so I'm going to assume no. Cool. So I did a bit of pre-work, being that I went through and did the Kintone workshop. I believe it's like an hour or sometimes two, depending on where you find it. There's a 2-hour workshop on YouTube, and I'm pretty sure there's an hour-long workshop on the MLH Twitch channel. So definitely go look for it. Highly recommend. They were great at explaining things, getting you started. Loved it. Like I said, got it working. It took me like 5 minutes, and that's mostly because I watched like both tutorials and was like, okay, I'm pretty sure. And then I followed the GitHub tutorial to be like, okay, I'm extra sure. Had some issues because I had out-of-date stuff, but whatever. And then as far as testing with a different idea, I didn't yet, with the intent that we would do it together today. So we are now going to get up to speed with the Kintone workshop, being just that we're just going to check what we had to do. We're going to do that quick review on it. We're going to double check that things are working. So basically, I'm going to prove that it is working. I'm going to hope that it's still working. I haven't done anything to change it. And then we're also going to fiddle around with some things in the front end just to see how those changes propagate, as well as looking at the back end and see if there's anything we can fiddle there. Once we have that functioning project confirmed, we're going to retrofit across the 3 different type of projects I recommended, and maybe come up with a 4th one that maybe the audience is like, hey, this is my idea. Like, how would we do this? So I would love if you could toss some ideas into chat while we're working on this of like, how else might we use Kintone's databases? If not, I totally understand. It is the end of the hackathon. Either you've been working really hard or you're just chilling with me, also fine. I very much enjoy that. Love casual chatting. But yeah, so let's first get into, like I said, the workshop. Then we'll do thinking like a hacker step one, basically doing the database stuff, getting that out of the way, and then we'll jump into what we might change, and then I will let you be free for the rest of the day/evening, depending on your time zone. All right, so we want to go to the Kintone workshop. Let me zoom in a ton. All right, so I have already, let me just change this because I can't see on my laptop. Show me StreamYard. Ooh, interesting. This is good. I will leave this like this. All right. Right. So I already have a Kintone developer license. So there are instructions on the Kintone platform through MLH. I think if you go to hack.mlh.io, you'll find a lot of instructions on how to get started with Kintone, which are most of these tabs up here. There's a few that I've closed because I'm like, yep, cool, got it reviewed, don't need it anymore, like we're good. It's like YouTube videos and a variety of other things. But once you have gotten the developer's license, now you have your portal, which shows you like how to get started. As you can see, I have a database here on the bottom right, and I'm not really using spaces up here on the right. So as you can see, I already have a test database. If it will let me load it in a sec. So this is where I was actually playing with the original country, state, city database that they had created for their workshop. I was curious and I just wanted to fiddle around with it, but I also added in 2 new fields just to see what would happen. So one of the things that we might fiddle with in the back end is about retrieving first name and last name on top of what we already have, just to confirm that like what we know makes sense, right? Based on this record number, though, that automatically tells me we probably don't need to worry about generating a UUID or a unique ID. It'll just count records up to infinity, I'm assuming. There may be a limit. We're not going to reach it with the small scale at which we're doing things, but as you can see, we can fiddle with things. Where was I going next? Right, so we already have the database set up. What we are going to do now is I'm going to swap windows. Stop sharing. Minimize that window. And I'm going to share my, where is Visual Studio Code? Come on. Where's code? Oh, that's what it's not. All right, let's do this. Let's go grab share screen. It won't let, will it let me? Nope. Come on. Share screen, window, code. Come on. Oh no. Is it not going to let me? Just because it's not. Well, frats. All right, y'all. Hang on. I got to go restart Chrome so that way I can share my window. I should have known this would happen. BRB. Huzzah. All right, now we should be able to share this. Window, code, share. Good. Hang on. It didn't like that. One moment while I adjust for this. Alright, let's see. Now will you let me share screen? Window. Share code. Chrome is sure. BRB again. Sorry, y'all. This is just a permissions issue nightmare. Which is like, I have reasonable permissions on my laptop. I just. Let me make sure I actually did it right this time. Okay. BRB again. Guess what I have? Finally a functioning. That's annoying. All right. Now we shouldn't have any more permissions issues. Knock on wood. And if there was any chats, I may have missed them. I thought someone said hello, in which case, hello, welcome to Permissions Nightmare. Typical of hacking. Not surprised, really. Okay, mic is good. Sharing screen. I'm on the screen. All right, let's zoom in so that way everybody can read this, because that's what's missing here. Alrighty. Windows. For some reason, no, that's not. It's not what I wanted. View. Maybe you will let me zoom in through this way. Ah, there we go. All right. Now, as I said, we are going to, wow, I think I lost all the tabs that I was using for, nope, here they are. Yay. Sick. We'll come back to that. All right. Okay, so what I did was I cloned the workshop, the ReactX REST API workshop from the Kintone workshop on GitHub. And let me go pull that up so that way everybody has that. That's not, I don't want the React docs. I want ReactX H1. And this is what I used to paste. Thank you. This is what I used to get started. And then I went through their YouTube tutorials and what they have on the README, and I just followed the instructions. So I had to update my NPM and Node installation. Because I don't use Node-N for my stuff, their tutorial did not apply to me. So I just had to just upgrade through NPM, and that was fine. And then I was using the correct version, which is like an extra version ahead or an extra 2 versions ahead, which doesn't seem to be an issue because when I tested it, it worked earlier. I haven't touched anything because you don't make edits before you need things, because then you break things. And the other thing I did was that I went through their server.js, which is what the tutorial focuses on. where they give us a couple to-dos, being that they want us to make an endpoint that uses get data, using their API token and getting the response and sending it back to the front end. So you're going to have two sides to this project. You're going to have a back end and you're going to have a React app. And so those need to be run on two separate terminal windows, which they're going to mention in their tutorial. Super helpful, like I said. And then you also have a post request where you are adding data to your database. So you have one that you get data, and one that you send data or like submit data, right? So now that we have two ways of like interacting with this, we have the basic functions of most of our projects. We just need to retrofit. So it's just a matter of figuring out like, okay, what do we need to retrofit it? But the first thing being, we should make sure that this is running. And so in order to do that, and by this, I mean both the front end and the back end, we go to, is it package? Yeah. So if you're not familiar with the workshop or you're not familiar with Node, definitely go to package.json. Ideally, you would have run npm install so that way you can get all the libraries after you've made sure that npm and Node are updated, preferably. Those requirements are really important. But then you would go through and find scripts. And so script will tell you, but also the tutorial and the README will tell you, that you want to run, I believe it's node run start, where node is obviously Node.js. Run is the command that you want to run, so that would usually access scripts, and then start being the keyword that will run whatever additional keywords you might have set up. And so again, there's a reason I'm using this already pre-built project. I don't have to worry about things not working. Everything's already set up to work with. I just have to go through and change the front end, change a bit of the back end in order to make my own unique project off of it. What I will do, however, is ensure that in my dev post, in my comments, in my GitHub README and repo overall, I credit Kintone's workshop saying, hey, this got me started. I use their workshop as a jumping off point because otherwise that's plagiarism and that's bad. Okay, rants aside. Let's make sure this works. So we have npm run start. So this will run the front end. And once it finishes going through, it'll tell us what port it's going to be on. So it'll be locally hosted. It's not going to probably show you the web page it's going to open up, but I will show that to you shortly. Actually, I have it on a different window. Wait, I can share my whole screen now, can't I? Hang on. Stop screen. I don't need that. I need to present. Share screen. Can I just share my entire screen? Yes! Yes. Okay, nobody needs to see me twice. I just will occasionally put it up so I have comments. All right. Now I can put this back in view. Okay, so it's at localhost 3000. Let's go ahead and refresh this. This is the React end. This is the front end, okay? And now we're going to go to terminal. Please ignore all my PhD work, where this was where I was updating all of my NPM stuff because it was wildly out of date. Sorry, I do most of my development on my desktop these days, which is funny. So we're gonna close that tab. What I do have is the NPM installs that I ran from the front end and the back end. And right now what I'm doing is I'm actually running the back end, having done npm run start. It'll also tell you if certain errors come up. It's a wonderful workshop. I cannot sing its praises more. Like, this is not shilling for this is a good workshop, all right? Like, I'm happy with this because again, it took me 5 minutes. It was amazing. So clear. Any errors I had solved. I didn't have an error that they didn't already cover. Brilliant stuff. All right. So like I said, have front end, have back end. Running npm run start on both of them. The difference is that the back end is within the front end folder. So again, I need two. npm run start for the back end is running on the second terminal window. However, the React stuff is currently running through my React instance on Visual Studio Code. This is more of a personal preference just because of how React scripts works. I really like having it all set up with Visual Studio Code. If there are things not quite set up, I think there might be an extension to download, but I hope not. It's supposed to just work. The idea being that when you make changes to the file, whether it's in Visual Studio Code or something else, such as Sublime Text or your preferred text editor or IDE, that when you save the file, it will automatically update the front end. The downside is the backend does not function that way. It's not using React scripts because React is not a backend library or framework. It's front end. So when you make updates to the backend, you're going to need to stop the backend server and restart it, which you may end up having to kill the process because the port will have already been taken by a ghost running process, or just it didn't properly kill itself. It happens. It's just part of programming. And so the other one that's running is the backend. So currently we have the get data get function that was already made through the workshop, where it will get anything that I've given. It apparently will also give us extra information like the updated date time, the created date time, I guess the last value in it. Oh, excuse me. A number of other things. All super helpful to interact with it. And so if you are not familiar with JSON, I am currently using a Chrome extension to format this JSON for me, so it's not just a wall of text in like a giant paragraph, because it would look like this, which is disgusting. Actually, this is not as disgusting as like normal JSON usually is. It's actually quite nice, but I like the color coding and being able to actually distinguish between curly brackets. So, all right, quick pause so I can double check the comments. No new comments. Flickering viewership, understandable. Right. So we know that if we refresh these things, stuff works. So let's go break it. All right. So the way to first understand how things work is the workshop takes us through just the server.js file. What it doesn't really take us through besides installation as far as the package.json files, which there is a package.json file for the front end, which is below over here. And then we have the package.json for the backend, which is here, which is what's used when you run npm install and a couple other things. This doesn't really tell us anything about where things are made or called or done or something in the front end. So the first place that I usually go when I'm trying to be like, all right, I have this workshop, there's some pre-built code, like what's the entry point to this work? Normally it's technically index.js, but as you can see, there's nothing useful here. It just does the setup for us. We don't need this. What we do need is app.js, which is where it actually goes. Generally, if you are using well-worded and well-identified projects, you will have to just go straight to the app.js file. And so we can see right off the bat, they're using React. They've got some default loading spinners. They've got the pickers, which is already referencing some other stuff. We don't need that one right now, but we also have the functions to make the API calls. All right, here's the juicy stuff. Here's the stuff where we're like, how is it getting records? How is it saving records? Clearly, it's from both of these files, which are in the request folder, which requests is right here on the left, just above app.css. So I opened post record, and this is where I would look and go, okay, so we have adding the endpoint where we give it some ending that matches probably what we've set up in the server.js file. So I'm going to put these windows next to each other. We're going to close this area so that way we can actually read what's going on. So we know that we're looking for post data. So let's go read the stuff about posting. This is all set up. Very good commenting. Again, I am not shilling. I am just very happy. You do not understand how unfortunate it is that companies are like, use our stuff. And like, that's great. I love using your stuff. If you don't tell me how to use it, I'm not going to have a good time. But these people, I'm having a good time. It's good. I'm happy. We also technically set up the environment file. This is part of their tutorial. I very much recommend you follow their tutorial to get this done. It's very quick. The short of it is that you need to make a .env file and then just update what this means. I'm not going to show you mine, but they do show you how to do it in the various YouTube videos that Kintone Workshop has. Again, highly recommend. So good. So good. Right. This is also just setup stuff. This is great for when you're working locally. Again, if we were doing this from scratch, we'd have to go through and do all this. We are saving ourselves so much time and effort because now we can just Google it and it just works. We don't even have to figure out why it doesn't work. We can just learn about what it's doing. So much easier. Because we can get to the really good stuff, which is, all right. So now we have the records endpoint. So we have multiple records endpoint and we have single record endpoint. And then we have the fields. So this is all set up for when we're going to request or access things, which if you go through the Kintone documentation, it'll explain more about how this is structured and how this is set up. But if you're a hacker like me and you're like, I need to get a project done quickly, we're going to skip it. We'll come back to it if we think we need it later. So we're looking at the post data. So let's skip the get. endpoint and just look at the post endpoint and see if we can understand what's going on between the post record.js file and the server.js at the post data function and URL header. You'll notice this endpoint here, the post data, useful. And so we have request body, where it constructs based on the app ID, which is retrieved from the end file. We have records, which contain the country, the value, the state, and its value, and the city and its value. So right off the bat, this is giving us an understanding of how data will be structured when we retrofit it. So let's think about the to-do list. We know that we're going to have a table called items. We don't really need a table, but we do need an app ID, which I'll explain later. But we're more likely to have a record or an item that consists of, let's go back here and let's zoom in. We're going to have in a to-do list its name, a priority number, a true or false with regards to completion, a possible group name, we may skip it in the interest of time of the workshop, and a date created, which is auto-generated. We might be able to skip that as far as the generation in Kintone because it already does it for us. So let's go ahead and jump to Visual Studio. All right, so if we were to retrofit this is a place that we would look at. We would also be editing this one, the record body parameters, because we want to make sure that these two match. The difference, though, is that they're calling a location item. So whatever's passed in here, the object that's passed in here, will be called currently location.country.state.city. So if we were to convert that mentally for the to-do list, it might be something like to-do.name, to-do.priority, to-do.completed, etc. Then we have options, which I don't really think we need to touch. Generally, we don't because the functionality is the same. If we were to add a new item, we want to post it. Therefore, we can keep most, if not all of these settings the same. We don't even have to touch this. It's already done for us. Excellent. And then in this instance, it's listening. We don't need to touch it. That's great for error handling. Let's keep going here. Here we're making a promise, we're awaiting the endpoint for it being added. It seems like we're probably just waiting to make sure that it actually happened. And we're sending it to the front end, it looks like right here. All right, so we have an understanding of the post record. Let's go back to the front end, which is in app.js, where we want to know, well, okay, so we understand how post works. We conceptually understand it, how to-do lists work. Let's keep scrolling. Again, we're planning ahead for the idea of retrofitting. We have a functioning project. It works great. Took 5 minutes to set up. Now we have a save point that we can always come back to being like, well, it worked before I messed around with it. Let's go back. So it's a very nice way instead of something that you've cobbled together as much. Cobbling together is still part of the hackathon experience. Still recommend it, but sometimes it can be overwhelming for people. Quick pause so that way I can check. Any comments? No comments. Somehow more viewers, question mark. I don't know why you are listening to me. I am just a crazy person obsessed with retrofitting. Being that I love an efficient process for a project that is not cheating. Cool. So we have some basics about React. It looks like they're saying, again, great comments, are hooks for data and setting that data. So we have set loading. Don't need to mess with that. We do have selected country, state, city, and records. So if we were to replace country, state, and city with things from our to-do list, let's come back here, that could be name, priority, completed, maybe not date created, maybe we skip date created. As for records, we can actually probably leave that the same as it is because a record is still a collection of the things that we've gotten from our database. So that can actually stay the same. We just need to update these 3 lines. You'll notice a trend now because so I think there's like a saying of like, you do it once and it doesn't matter. The second time is a mistake and the third time is on purpose. So I've talked about this twice and it was not a mistake. We're going to talk about it the third time if it comes up again, which I can see ahead that it is. Being that, now we have some consistency. We're always going to be looking for mentions, Control F, Command F, your preference of operating system, for selected country, state, and city. So we will search for country, state, and city. And anytime it appears that it's not in a use state, because that's different, that's completely different, useful, but not for this context, being that we are replacing things, we might choose to rename things. We should choose to rename things so we don't get confused, with the intent that, hey, instead of set selected country, it's more like set selected name. You'll notice that they're using selected, which is a verb. Past tense. For the form that they're using, we probably don't want to use selected for a to-do list. Remember I said we were going to use a text field? So we might actually just make it set name, set text name. Even then, that's too much. Set name is usually sufficient. The goal for the name of these is generally to be as explicit as possible, but as concise as possible, being that you're explaining what the recommended action is for use with this state updater. This is rooted in React. If you ever want to read up about that, highly recommend. There's lots of naming conventions, but the idea here is that you are setting some form of value. Cool. So let's move on. So we have the submit button. Here's the thing. When you're using post, you're generally going to want to use a form because you're collecting data. If, in the case of a to-do list, you might use a modal or a small window that's a pop-out where you'll instead say, hey, I have a new item. So you'll click a new item button. Then from that new item button, you'll type in things like the name, the description, the priority, or whatever the field it is that we're using, and then hit submit. And once you've hit submit, then it will set loading because it will go and start processing the response, or at least the request to post things. In this instance, we have a location object. If you remember back when we were looking at post record and how the function had a location object, it's not that the two need to be named the same. They don't. As you can see, post record here is using location. They don't have to be named the same between the files. Is it good programming? Yes, because now we know that the two are related. We know that it makes sense that we're passing the location object in this instance to the post record and parsing it back out so that way we know things. However, as far as what it's doing here, again, let's think about the to-do list, contextual understanding. We might instead say to-do item. We would then say just name, priority, etc., right? Name, priority, etc. in this section. And instead, this would become to-do item. To-do item for consistency, to-do item for consistency, right? And we might also adjust for any warnings. So it looks like there's a quick warning here that says, hey, if you haven't picked a country, at least pick one. And so this is really great for error handling. Again, amazing workshop. I'm so happy. But the point of this is, if you're doing a form, is there anything that you really want to make sure that people fill in that's required? For us, we want to make sure that a name is given to a to-do item. We don't want empty to-do items. Those are meaningless. So we might adjust this instead. Actually, we wouldn't need to adjust it. It's already checking for if there is no text. Rather, we might say, instead of picking a country, hey, it looks like you didn't give your to-do a name. Go ahead and add a name, and then we can let it submit. Because then it will actually send the response. Change loading to false. It looks like it won't actually send things, perhaps. We'll have to fiddle with this to see what this actually does before we fix it. But yeah. And then we have what happens when the button is clicked. It looks like this is where it actually sends it. So in this instance, it is sending the information of country, etc. to things. Aside from location array, which is set here, I think this is for multiple records. So I don't think we really need to touch this too much because this is just taking the list of records. This is calling the get. What we would instead do is change this from, like, again, state, country, etc., to whatever are appropriate things as far as retrieving the items. And so, again, we're retrofitting. So we want to get our to-do items to showcase them on the website or on our little app. So we do need to retrieve this. I think with this instance, we just need to rename the variable names because the functionality is still the same. We might need to add some fields, but that's about it. Quick pause to check comments. No comments. That's fine. I'm assuming nothing's wrong. Did I share the screen? Oh my God. Oh my God. You were supposed to tell me. We keep doing this. We've learned nothing. Okay. Now that I've been talking to an empty screen, let's go do that again. Actually, I'm going to go feed my cat. I'll be right back. Y'all, my bad indeed. Y'all aren't watching then. That's okay. I totally understand. It is the end of a hackathon. Y'all are pretty tired. Apparently, I am too. I have not learned my lesson from Let's Global Hack Week. Let's take a 5-minute break because it has almost been an hour and my cat needs to be fed, and she needed to be fed 20 minutes ago. And then we'll do it all again. Just very quickly though. We'll take so much less time. Um, Kitty is not in the room. Kitty is probably complaining about food. She might come in after she's finished eating, in which case she'll be in the window bed behind me. So I'm a BRB. Hello, Kitty has been fed. She might not come in after. Hello, great timing. We're gonna go redo all the stuff I just talked about because I forgot to share my screen. Again. All right, now that you all can see the screen and not my face, because that's awkward. 2 streams I've done this now. I'm just not gonna change the window. Well, yeah, because I'm sharing the window. It's not even Monday. I can't even blame it on being a Monday. All right, round 2. So we were talking about magic. We were talking about magic. All right. Speedy run through. Cool. Pickers, stuff for form. Great. Don't need that yet. Going through post record, which is this file here. Notice similarities between country, state, and city. Country, state, and city. Country, state, and city. Checker. Location array. Adjust for country, state, and city, or to-do list context being name, priority, and whatever else I gave it. I can't remember the thing. Leave the rest alone. This is app.js. Yes, this is fine. All right. Did I do everything right? Because I feel like I'm paranoid now. I'm extra paranoid. Okay. Yes, I am not muted. Things are working. Oh my goodness. I warned you all and you still did me dirty. How could you? It's fine. It happens. We are only human and humans are born to make mistakes. Hindsight is 2020, hubris, yada, yada, yada. All right. So the front end, retrofitting, continuing off where I speed ran past that part because I'm just so disappointed. All right. I still really love Kintone. It's so easy to use. We're going to get to the Kintone part shortly, being that we're going to retrofit. But again, we have a country picker, state picker, etc. And we have all those values that we might rename later. The nice thing about Visual Studio Code is that you can select and highlight stuff. And you again have that submit, and you have a div afterward to list records. All right. So chat, if you are paying attention, totally understandable. If not, I wouldn't pay attention to me either. JK, I am here for a reason, which is not to look at my face, but to look at my screen. We have a couple options. We have the 3 basic project ideas, or one that can come up in chat. Because I've talked so much about the to-do list, because it is such a simple project to replicate, I am going to go through and do the to-do list, but I do want to make sure that chat, if you have questions, that you ask them, please, 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 please. But if you also have ideas or things that you're like, could we use Kintone for this? That you have the chance to ask that, and we can think through it, give you an answer, a verdict, and then hopefully some more people will also add in with their thoughts as well. So really, really looking for chat engagement for like this last 45-ish minutes. So we can spend the last 15 minutes just chilling, catching up, doing whatever else, handling any last minute questions that come up. But yeah, so I'm leaving the blog as a challenge because it's not quite complete, but also again, the stuff is there. The portfolio is really, really common. I'm leaving it as something as a personal challenge if you want to do it for the hackathon or after. But the to-do list is actually the most like common thing enough that I think you can springboard off and come up with a lot of different ideas. And that's my challenge to you as well. Depending on your difficulty level will determine what the appropriate challenge is. All right. And just in case, for my sanity, what did I do with StreamYard? Where did I put? Here's our terminal. We don't need to touch this right now. Actually, do we need to touch anything in the back end yet that we're here? Yes, this part. And not that. And we will need to update the environment file, by the way, as we make new databases, which we'll go over. But what happened to StreamYard? Did I No, I'm still sharing my screen. So where did StreamYard go? What did I do with it? Oh my God. There it is. All right. I'm going to leave this in the window so I can just see chat because I need to see chat. All right. Like I said, we are doing the to-do list. So let's go ahead and start with the server. JK, we're going to start with the database because we need to start with the database. Wow, I'm really discombobulated. I'm so embarrassed. I keep doing this. All right, moving on. I'm going to make a new database. We got this. We got this. We're going to have to go to Portal. And we're going to need to go to Apps. And we're going to go here. So in almost, if not all of the tutorials, they're always going to create an app from scratch. There are obviously other options. So if you already had data, this would be great to use for Excel or CSV or other things. We're creating an app from scratch because that's what everybody does. And it makes the most sense. And we're going to name this Todoist. What's a fun to do name? Maybe we don't reinvent the wheel too much. JK, we're reinventing the wheel. Todoist is fine. All right. So we have a to-dos. So I will say there is a to-do like project in Kintone. I haven't actually played with it. It might actually have it all set up for us. But I really wanted you to get familiar with interacting with Kintone, using it, etc. Really paranoid. Did I actually share the screen? Yes, I keep seeing it. I'm so burned by this. All right. Now, what we also need, though, is an understanding of what our items are. So I'm leaving this window here. Gonna shrink this window a little bit so we can see it. So we have these items, right? We might not use all of them or enough to just really get the point across. So we don't need an ID. It'll have a record ID as we saw from the country, state, city project. We do, however, need a name, which will be a text field or a text area. I think, so text area is generally when you're writing long responses, like a paragraph or something. We only really want a sentence for a to-do list, so a text field should be just fine. A priority number, which will be a number. And then we have completed. Will it have a perhaps checkbox? Yes. Okay, so you'll notice that I'm adding these below each other. But for aesthetic purposes, is it not gonna? All right, hang on. We're only deleting them because I can't see. I gotta zoom out a little bit. I really wanted to make it easy for everybody to see after forgetting that sometimes people watch on their phone, so they can't always see everything, and I really wanted to be mindful of that, but I don't think it's gonna work today. So, all right, so we have text. Now remember with Kintone, you need to rename it. So we're gonna name it name. We don't need to do any of these. It is a required field. We don't have to check this, but I'm doing it for the sake of, just like good practice, that even if we may not have checked for it, say in our code, we're checking for it in our database. We don't need characters. We don't need default values. We could just name it item, but I'm going to skip that for now. But we do need to edit the required thing besides the field name that was on the top here that's visible and this. And you'll also, if you went through the workshops or if you're going to go through them and if you're listening to me now, field codes cannot have any uppercases, have any spaces. They must be lowercase. So with that in mind, name. Cool. So we save that and then we go and we get our priority and we scroll across, we change the settings, we change this to priority. Is this a required field? Nah, not really. But we do want a minimum of 1 and a maximum of 3. I'm assuming this is inclusive. We could do a default value. Not really worth it. We don't really need a unit of measurement either, so we're just going to skip that as well. But as far as number, let's change this to priority. Remember, it has to be lowercase. for it to work. And that's how their API generation works. And finally, let's go get a checkbox. So that way we have the completed or not. Let's go here. Let's go to settings. It looks like we can add more options or remove them. We only have one option being, is it completed? So let's change this to completed. We could just leave that as yes. We want it horizontal. That's fine. Default value. Yep, there we go. That's changed completed. Let's not make that a question mark anymore, but we will name this to is task completed. And then finally, we will change the field code to lowercase completed. Go ahead and save that. Now we can check that. And let's just leave it at that. Honestly, we'll skip the group name. Again, challenge for different difficulties. We need to then save our form. So it's going to save it. That's saved. This currently means that we have no additional records, but let's go ahead and add a new record. We're doing it from our side. So that's not it. I didn't want that. Graphs, app settings. We will need an API token. So this is where going through, and again, I'll turn this off after this workshop, so that way it's not, what's it called? Not copyable, but we're going to generate a token for this specific Todoist database. We want to be able to view records and add records. We would definitely want to be able to edit records and delete them, because when you think of the typical to-do list operations, we want to see our items, add new items, edit our existing items in case we need to rename it, misspelled something, who knows. And finally, we want to be able to delete it. Maybe we no longer want to complete that item. So with that in mind, let's save that. I forgot to copy that. API token, copy. All right, and then cancel. And then the last step is to activate the app. Anytime you make changes after this, you want to make sure that you always hit save and then update app. And this is also something that's discussed in their workshop. So I think at this point, we should be able to add a record. Yeah, here we go. So let's name our to-do app finish workshop, or we want to have an item that we want to finish to-do app. Priority is 1, and it's not completed yet. So let's go ahead and save. And now we have our new record. Let's add another record. Let's say prep for workshop. Also priority 1, but is completed. So now we have some sample items. So we've saved that. Let's go back to Todoist. And now we have 2 records. We have with the priorities, whether it's completed or not. Excellent. So we have some items. Let me go ahead and double check chat really quick. Nothing new in chat. Nothing new that we are ignoring. This is going to haunt me. I really need to. My PC will be back and things will be better. It'll be better. So I'm not going over the environment file though, specifically because they go over that in the workshop in extensive detail, which is great. But you'll notice that we have the 2 in the URL. We have our subdomain. So we already have some updates on what we'll need. So let's go ahead and go back to Visual Studio Code. We're going to go and update our environment file, change the QR. We change the app ID. The subdomain stays the same. I'm going to get rid of both those keys because I have just made those public, and that's okay. I planned for this. I did not plan for this, but I do not care. I can just disable those. Yeah, so we have a new app connected in our environment. Now we need to go update all those instances of location, city, or just city, country, state, or all those different appearances, right? So the first place we know that it appears is generally going to be in the server when we're getting the records. So if we fix that first, we'll be able to test like just plain text. Have we done the fixes? Then we'll go to the front end and go, okay, now we know how to like finagle some stuff. So let's see. So we have a city picker. They pull city from that. I don't remember how to do a text field. That's okay. We can Google that. We'll come back to that. Right. So going back through server, we don't have to change any of this. All we have to do is update our env file, which we just did. So that's pretty much good to go. What you should know is that now your app will not work. Well, yes, it will. Until you stop the server and restart it, your app will still work on the previous environment and everything else. The moment you stop the server to test your new updates, it will stop working. You will not have a functioning front end, but you will have a functioning back end if you've done it correctly. So let's go ahead and we're going to now change it, our note to ourselves, that we have the fields name, we have the field priority, and we have the fields completed, right? Remember, it's going to be a text field, a number, and a checkbox item. So when we get stuff, again, we have 2 records. So now we'll be able to test this when we restart the server, that we will always get the options. We don't really need to change any of this. It'll still be get data. So we don't really have to update this part of our backend. What we do need to update eventually is the post record. So instead of having a record of country, state, and city, we'll have name, priority, completed. And we'll also change it here. Now, you could do a replace all, but you risk getting some wrong values or messing up your code. And unless you have complete oversight over being like, yes, if I replace state everywhere, it will absolutely be correct. But you can't guarantee that. So if there's like a lot of replaces, it's going to be really tedious, but you're going to do the due diligence of checking. Let's see. Is there anywhere else that say country, etc. occurs? Not that I can see, but just in case, we're going to do a Control F. Check for country, check for city, and finally check for state. And the reason I'm checking those out of order is because we are using React, which thrives on states. The condition, the state of something, like what's it called? Like a state diagram or a position that something is in until another condition is true that makes it do something. All right, so we've updated our server. So even though I've hit save, our front end will still pull from a different one, I'm pretty sure. So let's double check. So I've reloaded, we're gonna get, and as you can see, it still gets the stuff from the previous one because we haven't reset the server. So we're gonna go back to our terminal and we're gonna go ahead, and I know this is really, really tiny, but what I've done is I've stopped the server. I'm gonna do npm run start. It's probably gonna tell me the server already exists. Yeah, so it's telling me it doesn't exist. So we're gonna go ahead and cancel again. We're gonna go up a few. Yeah, so in the workshop / in the README, there is an instruction of how to basically kill the server. So that's the command I just pulled up. You'll copy that. We have a PID, a process ID for what's going on. We next need to kill that process ID, and that process ID will generally be different every time, so you need to retype it. So we've killed it, and now if our killing of the process has worked, we should be able to just run npm start. All right, so it's currently sitting at localhost 50,000. We should be able to retrieve records at the get data endpoint. What we also should be able to see is that this no longer is able to get items. So we've refreshed, we've called get, and as you can see, it cannot read the properties of undefined because it's no longer connected to that database. Cool, so that works. And now let's confirm that it actually works the way we intend it to work, meaning that it needs to retrieve those 2 records that we added. So again, we have country and a bunch of other information from those records. Now, if we refresh data, awesome. And so we're pretty much good as far as get data goes. We don't need to worry about that for right now. Rather, what we need to do is now update the front end to properly retrieve the data. And so we don't need to edit server anymore. We need to instead edit either and or app and post record and get record. So let's go to get records because that's one of the things that fails. So as it says, it retrieves the Kintone records and returns an array of list items. Now, as you can see, it just gets the function. So we're probably fine as far as this one goes, but we do need to see how get records is being used. with the lovely nature that is Visual Studio Code, you can go through and hunt it down. But I've already pulled up the files, so we can just Control F on app.js. So we're going to go to get records. And so we have this import here, and we're going to go to when it's first used. So as you can see, there's a location array, which we're looking for a to-do array. So let's go ahead and change this. Because we're replacing this multiple times rather than make errors, we're going to paste it. And then the thing that we next need to do is look at what records they're grabbing. So it looks like they're grabbing country value, state value, and city value. We need to then change this to name, priority, if I can spell, and completed, right? Otherwise, this should be fine. But just to make sure, let's go check to see if get records is called anywhere else. And the answer is no. So remember, we only want those 3 fields. So if we go back to we can close that because we're done with that. If we go back to our React app, let's go ahead and just refresh the page. Technically, it should already refresh it for us, which is what it was doing when it was loading. But I just want to make sure we're thorough. And so we can see, hey, we have prep for workshop, which is our name. We have the priority, and we have completed. Now, there is some UI stuff that you could do to say, like, if completed is visible from the field or equals completed or however you'd like to refer to it, you could then create some like quick little if statement that says if there is no completed, you could say type incompleted or replace completed with a check mark or in the case of not being completed, an empty box. And so this is more UI stuff that you could do thanks to React. So we're not going to cover that just because, again, challenging yourself to do these things. We are going to go ahead and finish fixing things, being that we want to change post record. So we have expecting location. We actually want to change that to to-do item. Now, right off the bat, it's going to start yelling at us about all the different things that are broken. This is another way that you might be able to fix things, where you change the parent object. It's not the most reliable, but it is a way to go about doing it. So let's change this to to-do item. You'll notice I didn't paste it, which means it's going to take longer and I'm going to make more mistakes. I risk misspelling things. So let's change those 3. No more errors. But we know that country, state, and city don't exist on these fields. Name, priority, sorry y'all, and completed do. But they're not labeled that either, so we also need to change the labels. Priority, if I can spell. Goodness. Nope, I want to do, yeah, sorry. I'm a fumble fingers today. Priority. And goodness gracious. Completed. All right, so we've changed the record body parameters. Let's see where the record body parameters is used in this file. And the answer is not really anywhere else. Like nothing that we need to change. The functionality is otherwise still the same. So when we're sending records, this will be fine. The problem that we have is when it's being made from the front end. We haven't really changed that yet. So let's go ahead and close the post record. Let's focus on just app.js, which is the only other mention I'm pretty sure of there being get records. Now, the other way you might change this is you might search for things like get records. And you can see that it appears in app.js and get records. So we should be pretty much good for that. But again, we're going to finish changing things. So let's see where else. Again, a secondary or third or however many times I've mentioned there's different steps in this. We're looking for city, country, etc. This is already fixed by what we did, so we can move on. But let's go back up and just double check for sure. And the answer is, yeah, we do have some stuff to fix, being that we need to change the states. Rather than selected country, we probably want to use something more like name. So again, with the naming convention, I am tired. We'll do name and set name. And we want them to be empty quotations because there may not be a name. And we have priority. So we have priority and set priority. And finally, we have the completed, true or false, and set completed. So I'm making this common trick, or maybe. Completed is a text field because of the checkbox. But if you're using it as a true and false, you might consider using the use true false aspect of React, which I'm pretty sure is an option where you can use it as like a Boolean instead of just a complete state, which a text field is more accurate for. And then we'll leave this as empty quotation marks for now. We might have issues with set priority, but it's fine for now. Now, because we do have completed as a text value, it is okay for it to be text for now. We'll debug it as we come up to it. Unfortunately, it's been a minute since I've done React, so like my it needs some help. Anyway, so we have selected country, and so originally with that verb, we were referring to name. If we looked back on RD, so what I just did, where I was like, okay, name priority completed, done, right? Now I don't know what the original reference values were, so be careful when you're editing things. Generally, it's good advice and it's good practice to change things one field at a time. So change all the countries to name, change all the states to priority, change all the cities to completed, all in one go. Whether you use control find replace, which you'll notice if you had state, you have this use state, which is completely different from the intended functionality that we have. This is more about React, not about the fields that we're using, right? But we know in this instance, we're referring to name, referring to priority, I'm referring to completed. We also know that location is now to-do item. And we want to change this to name, this to name. Remember, we're leaving this this empty quotations because we actually want it to be filled. So that one's fine to leave that check there. And we put to-do item here. All right. Let's see. The thing is, I'm pretty sure, let's double check. We're good. Okay. So for now, we're good. It's not great. We'll come back to that. There will probably be issues here, being that we also need to change the fields because it's expecting those fields in the function. If I can type, which apparently I don't think I can. And then we have, is it spelled right? Yes. Is it? I've been staring at it so long I can't tell actually. All right. So now the submit function, submit button is fixed. So let's keep going. So now we have all these red lines. So let's go ahead and start tackling this. So we can leave the loading spinner. We don't need to worry about that. We can leave the welcome to React and Kintone. Again, this is a demo project. And we're going to, instead of saying pick a country, we'll say name your to-do. Then we'll say pick a priority. You don't have to though. And finally, is a task completed? Now again, these are all selected attributes. So rather than actually go and replace these, the thing that we actually want to use is a text field. And we don't have that field quite in our React at the moment. So I'm going to do a quick Google. But in the meantime, is there anything else we need to fix? Not particularly. So why don't we comment this out, or actually we'll delete it for now. We're going to delete it. And yes, we're going to delete it on purpose. And we're going to see if I can do some silly magic. No, I need to go reference some files. Hang on. How do you do things? Take selected country, selected city. I want something simpler. I don't need the state. Let's do the country. All right, so you have set selected country. You take it in as an object where you take in the state. Here we go. This is what I want. Rather than get the options, it looks like they're just using that's all right. So to explain what I was doing, what we really need is just a field, a text field to be exact, and then a checkbox we'll come back to later. Being that it might be a challenge, it might be a, see what we've done. So we have the React select here. which is not anywhere in these files. And so if you're familiar with React, you know that you can pretty much just pull some libraries that are defaultly available to you. I'm wondering if there's a text field available. So there's a select, is there? Rather than do React select, maybe it's that we need to check something else. So I want to go to React in the libraries. Okay, so here we have select. I actually don't even think we maybe need React select. Can we just do text field? Textual content. I am forgetting. Let's put this back for a hot sec. Leave those options. Put that back. That's safe. It's fine. What we do want is to actually, how do they set it? Where do you set it? There we go. That's what I wanted. I want to set selected country, which is, where is it? There we go. Paste. Set name. And I think we need to add brackets. Perhaps not. That might break it. Mostly because it's been a minute since I've done React. Yeah, too many re-renders. So just by doing this, we're going to have it just run forever, which is not what we want. Whoops. What we are going to do is instead just make a quick version of something. So we're going to do a new file. We're going to do text field .js. Copy all this. Paste. We don't need select. We don't need any of this actually. Delete that. Change this to text field. And then this will become name and set name. And what we do want to do is return, not that. Why am I blanking on this? I want the simple HTML one though. Text. Why am I blanking on this? There's like a text field in HTML that I'm just like HTML form text field. Forms. Tell me what's in the input. Duh. Why did I forget? Do you? Do you? You let me? Yes. Good. And then put this here. Let me double check I've done what I need. So we're going to replace it. All right. This is now input. We also need to bring back the import, which is input. Make this input, which is from React Select. Surely you'll there we go. It will auto import that for me. Thank you. I don't need these options. Gonna change value to name, set name, remove that, make this a text field, and we're gonna also change this to text field, and we're gonna hit save. Save, and then we're going to go here. Remove all of those that I just got rid of by accident. Yeah, there we go. And then we want text field name, set name. Text field is not defined. What do you mean it's not defined? Ah, I haven't imported it. Text field and text field. All right, error. Input is not exported from package. Rats. It was a nice dream. React inputs. Oh, I guess we could have just used basic input. Oh, I guess we could have made multiple types. There are also checkboxes. Excellent. How are you doing this? You just have that. Where do you get the values from it? Writing a label, writing initial value. I want, but this is for form data. Yes, state variable, here we go. This is what I want. This is what I want. That. Let's go back here. Let's just replace it. We're using the basic form, which is fine. Name. Set name. Hit enter. That's fine. All right. Why dost thou hate me? I will delete you. I am sorry. I tried. I tried to be smart. I should have just gone the easy route. Delete. Into trash. Delete. Now will thou compile? Yes, good. Great. And here we go. We have our file. Hello. Submit. I don't actually know if it went through. Let's go back to the to-do list. Let's refresh. All right, it didn't send it. Rats. Probably because we actually didn't get the value. We have set name. We have value name. Let's go back. Inspect. Give me the... Oh, why are you yelling? What dost thou hate? Ah. Again, too many re-renders? Let's refresh you. Test. And then let's go to network. Submit. Why do you hate? Oh. Missing or invalid input. What's in the array? Messages required. Looks like the name didn't get sent. Why did you not work? Perhaps we didn't need value in the fact that, where is value? Value. I don't think we need this then. Let's try that. Refresh. And we're coming up on the 15-minute mark. Still no. Response records. This is for get. What I want is... Where is it flipping? Perhaps. Perhaps that is where it freaks out. You'll notice that I'm reviewing the value. Let's refresh it again. Simply because those are remnants of the country state API thing library that they're doing. Invalid JSON string. All right, we're getting somewhere. Didn't like that. Let's see. What did you not like? Let's start doubling up on Windows here, because something's funky. Oh, I see. I believe, let's make it a default 1 and refresh. That might be why, because it's expecting a number in that instance. No, it does not like that. What is being sent in the payload? That is fine. Why are you not sending it? Post record. Implication and record endpoint. Shouldn't be anything that isn't working. To do item name, priority completed. Name, priority completed. Invalid JSON string. Anyone from chat? Nope. Nothing. Invalid JSON. Well, it's in the post record, so maybe I didn't send something over right. To do item. Name, priority completed. Name, priority completed. Console.log. What's in console? It is printing test. We have the alert saying post the record. Post that as the record body parameters. Do that. Interesting. Maybe it's completed that it's not liking. Invalid JSON. I wish it would tell me perhaps where it does not like the object. Just in case though. Yes, this should be here. So console.log to do item. Save. What is going on that it does not like? Let's get. Oh. Objects are. Oh, did I not fix the get? Yeah. List records to records. Didn't change that. So get records. Get fetch JSON fine. App. Records. Let's change that. Records are used here. Objects are not valid. Collection of children. It was working. What did I change? Let's get the response then. Get. All right, so we have a records array. Just 2 records. All right, we have response, we get the records, and we say for each record at index, we push the record name, priority, and completed. And then we set records here, where the key is equal to index. I am not sure. I am stumped. I am using an array. What do you mean I am not? I haven't changed anything with regards to records. That should have stayed the same. What happened? Welcome to hacking. You'll get stuck at silly things. It'd be like that. All right. Loading, get, button. That's fine. We don't need that. This should still work. It hasn't changed. Let's go open up get records again. Are we sure it doesn't need to change? Get records. Response again. Backend will pass JSON. Receive and parse as is. Received and parsed as is. Found object with keys. Oh. Since it found object with keys. One moment. I want to change what I am sharing for just a moment. Share screen window. Gonna share that for a hot sec while I go investigate something. Oh, we did need value. My bad. All right, so when investigating records object, we do still need the values. I was mistaken. Whoops. So we do need name.value. This is why you test things. Name.value, to do array dot value, and then completed dot value. And awesome. Okay, let me go fix my screen sharing again. Go find my window again. StreamYard, present, share screen, entire screen, nightmare. All right. I almost did the thing. I almost did the thing where I didn't add it to the stage. We have not learned our lesson. All right. So we now have a functioning get button from our retroactive fix. We have done that part. So we only need to work on the post part, which still isn't working for some reason. Let's go ahead and finish the other two fields, which are priority and completed. Let's just duplicate this and set priority. And then there's a way you can limit the fields. There we go. Set age as a number. Add 10 years. That's fine. I want to cast it. There we go. We want to change priority to a number. We might be able to do a condition, but for now, let's assume we have perfect users that just always I wonder if we can do that. Is that what they did? They did it age as number. They do it here in the function. Let's leave it and see what happens. It's probably going to break, but that's okay. To do name Submit. It should break. Yeah. Alrighty. Now we are back to this where it freaks out at line 27 in the post record area. It tells us that it cannot be stringified because it's an invalid JSON string. We do console the items, and they are technically a JSON string. Are they not? Are they not? All right, what did record body parameters originally look like? All the same. The only thing we did was change the names, change the IDs, add a console log. Yeah, those are valid JSONs. So how is this not? Body JSON response. What happens at JSON response? Let's take a look at that one. I am curious. What happened? Okay. It did not like that. I don't know what it didn't like. I guess it didn't like, oh, because we're waiting for that. No, that should be fine. Why are you like, oh, is there something missing here? Because we're awaiting. And then we await response. Let's get the, Jesus, response. Maybe there's something going on here that we're not understanding. We still can't get it, so the response isn't working. What is add record endpoint? Post data. And options, post header content, take the body parameters. Well, let's see. Maybe then, since it's not getting that, let's print out the body. See what happens. Because it's not finding the JSON response, which is interesting to me. No, chill out. Go ahead and load it. Can't resolve. Polyfills, fallback, error in node modules, URL encoded. What's going on? Can't resolve path. Content disposition. What did we change to? That doesn't... You know what? This might be the end of the stream. We're at the 10 till mark. But for the most part, that should have worked. I think this is probably me not knowing something I should know. Comma, comma, comma. Is there something that was missing a comma? Nope. 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 And if I delete that? Oh, it's still broken. Somewhere something's wrong. Maybe it's this. Wow, it's still broken. What did I do? This was fine. What did I change? It was fine. Compiled with problems. I think this is something else. And I didn't change anything else. Let's get rid of these two for now. I'm aware. was working. And now it's not. Well, I'm gonna keep working on that one. That's not what I expected to happen. It shouldn't have just broken like that unless I put a typo somewhere I didn't realize. Let's rebuild it just entirely. Maybe that's why. When in doubt, just rebuild. Connection failed. Cannot find module. I wonder, this might be a versioning issue. Yeah. Dang. Something funky happened. And I'm not sure what. This is where you revert and you try again. Alrighty. Well, never a dull day. So let me pull up our checklist because we did most of it. We did most of it. Let's see. To-do list, share, and add to stage like a good streamer. And I'm going to zoom back out for a hot minute so we can actually see things. All right. So if we go back to our portal, we took the existing workshop, when it loads, because my computer's slow, we took the existing country, state, city project, added a few extra things just for giggles to see how it would change things. It didn't. We didn't call those fields, though. And then we created a new database with the intent of retrofitting our to-do list, where we created just 3 key fields again, but this time we wanted to use different things, meaning that we wanted to use a text field that only takes numbers, and a checkbox eventually. So all of this is fairly repeatable without really having a GitHub. Earlier, I did post the GitHub link to the workshop. Again, there are videos out there for getting Kintone set up, getting the developer license and everything you need. It is really quite simple. I think I broke something, and that part is not so simple. I'm just not sure what I broke because it was working, and we were able to get stuff from the table, and then I changed something somewhere that I'm not sure what I changed. So this is where I would walk it back, try again. But it's really simple to switch databases. You switch the API key, and you're actually able to just retrofit as you go. So generally nice to start with a working project. Thank you so much for joining me and being patient while I talked to myself, because nobody told me I needed to share the window, because StreamYard, it sometimes doesn't work with me, and it just automatically is like, hey, you're sharing your tab, and then it pulls it up, and I can't get back to it because I don't have multiple monitors right now. So anyway, I appreciate you all joining me. We got pretty far, I have to say, and yeah, all the best and good luck with the end of the event. You basically did get a speed run how to hackathon with an existing project to retrofit for your own needs. So still very useful. I'm very glad you all joined. And like I said, enjoy the rest of the hackathon. I hopefully can see some amazing projects submitted that are riffs off the to-do list, blog post, or portfolio. And yeah, show the judges a good time. Have a good one and enjoy your evening.